I didn't even want her to go. That's the part that stings the most. I had this gut feeling, that quiet, gnawing instinct that whispers when something's off. But I didn't listen. I trusted her. I told myself I was being paranoid, jealous, insecure. Turns out I was just right. Her name's Megan. My wife. We've been married for 7 years. 7 years of shared rent, shared bed, shared dreams. Or at least I thought they were shared. She said she needed a break. A girls' trip to Miami. 4 days in the sun with her 2 college friends. No husbands. No kids. Just tanning, cocktails, and catching up. I didn't want her to go. I told her I'd book us both a vacation. Somewhere quiet, just the 2 of us. She laughed. Laughed in my face and said I was being clingy. That I needed to let her breathe. So I did. Like a damn fool I did. I helped her pack. I bought her a new suitcase. I drove her to the airport. She kissed me goodbye. Said she'd miss me. Said she'd call every night. She didn't. The first night, no call. Just a quick text. Landed safe. Exhausted. Talk tomorrow. Love you. The second night, silence. By the third night, I was calling her. Straight to voicemail. I told myself not to freak out. Maybe they were out late. Maybe her phone died. Maybe. But something broke inside me when I saw her tagged in a photo on Instagram. She was smiling, holding a drink, wearing a dress I hadn't seen before. Tighter, shorter, bolder than anything she owned. And she wasn't with her friends. There was a man, right next to her, arm around her waist, his hand too familiar, too confident. Her body leaning into his like it belonged there. The caption read, "Perfect night with this amazing woman, palm tree kiss mark, #Miami Nights." His profile was public. His name was Jordan. Muscular. Tattooed. Flashy smile, expensive watches, rented yachts. The kind of guy who made a living flexing for followers. And my wife was in 4 of his last 7 posts. No tags. No mentions. Like she was trying to hide it. But not enough. I stared at the photos for hours. Zooming in. Looking at every detail. Her eyes. Her hand on his chest. The way she smiled like she hadn't in years. Couldn't breathe. I didn't sleep. And when she finally texted me the next morning, "Hey babe. Sorry, super busy here, having fun. Miss you." I felt something inside me snap. She was lying. I knew it. And I was going to prove it. I didn't respond to her message. Not because I didn't want to. Because I didn't know what version of me should reply. The calm, naive husband who believed her, or the one whose heart was already sinking under the weight of betrayal. I stared at the screen, thumb hovering, blood pounding in my ears. I set the phone down, walked away, sat on the edge of our bed in the dark, the silence screaming louder than any words I could write. That night, I opened a bottle of whiskey. I hadn't touched alcohol in over a year. Megan didn't like it when I drank. Said it made me too quiet, too intense. But that night, I needed the numbness. Needed something to dull the sharp edges of the images burned into my mind. Her in that dress. Him with his hand on her hip. The way she tilted her head, laughed, looked at him like he was her whole world. It haunted me. I spent the next few hours doing what any broken man does in the digital age. I became a detective. I scrolled through Jordan's feed, every photo, every comment. He was staying at the Fontainebleau, one of those overpriced, influencer-type hotels where the cocktails cost more than a meal and everyone's pretending to be someone richer, cooler, more important. He'd posted stories too, fast cars, poolside selfies, panoramic views from a penthouse suite. I watched them all, paused, rewatched, tried to catch glimpses of her in the background. And then I found it. A video, just 3 seconds long. A slow pan across a rooftop party. Music thumping, lights flashing, dozens of people. And for half a second, just a half, I saw her, Megan, sitting on a lounge chair, his hand resting on her thigh. She leaned in, whispered something in his ear. He smiled. She kissed his cheek. I dropped my phone. It wasn't just cheating. It was intimacy, familiarity, comfort. She wasn't being swept away in a one-night stand. She was choosing him. smiling with him, being happy with him. And I was here, in our apartment, our cold, silent apartment where her scent still lingered on the pillow, where her toothbrush was still in the bathroom, where I was still, somehow, stupidly hoping this was a misunderstanding. The rage came slowly, not like fire, more like ice, creeping through my veins, freezing me from the inside out. I picked up my phone again, clicked on her contact. My thumb hovered over the call button, but I didn't press it. No, she didn't deserve that yet. She didn't deserve to know I knew. Not until I saw her face. Not until I gave her the chance to lie to me one last time, to look me in the eyes and pretend everything was fine. So I waited. For more days. For long, hollow, torturous days. And then she came home. When she walked through the door, it was almost cinematic, like a scene crafted to twist the knife just a little deeper. Megan strolled in with a bright smile, hair pulled into a loose ponytail, oversized sunglasses on her head, and that same too-short Miami dress clinging to her frame. She was tan, glowing, radiating the kind of energy you only get from sun, sex, and zero consequences. She dropped her bags by the door, kicked off her sandals, and looked at me like nothing was wrong. Like I hadn't spent the last 5 nights dying inside. "Hey, babe," she chirped, walking toward me with arms outstretched. "God, I missed you." I didn't move. She paused, her arms falling slowly to her sides, confusion flickering across her face. "What's wrong?" I wanted to scream, to grab her phone, to shove the photos in her face and ask her, "How could you?" But I didn't. I just stood there, hands clenched into fists, and stared at her. Let her feel it. The silence. The weight of it. The vacuum of all the things I wasn't saying because deep down she knew. She had to know. "You didn't call," I said finally, my voice low and steady, almost eerily calm. "Not once." She blinked. A beat of hesitation. Then a light laugh, too quick, too forced. "Oh my God, I know. I'm sorry. We were just constantly out and I didn't want to be rude checking my phone all the time. I figured texting was enough." I nodded slowly. "Right? Because texting 'miss you' while you're with another man is polite." That stopped her cold. Her mouth parted slightly. Her posture stiffened. "What are you talking about?" I stepped forward, closing the gap between us, phone already in hand. I pulled up the post. The picture. The caption. The truth. I held it up, inches from her face. "This. Jordan. You. His arm around you. His hand on your body. Tell me, Megan, which night of the girls' trip was this?" She froze. Her face drained of color. And for a second, a tiny, almost imperceptible second, I saw something flicker in her eyes, not guilt. Not fear. Annoyance. She was annoyed, I found out. Her jaw tightened. "You were spying on me? Don't you dare turn this on me." I went to relax. "I didn't think you'd be stalking my friend's tags and creeping on random accounts." "He tagged you, Megan. You're not some hidden mystery. You're his highlight reel." Silence. The room was heavy, thick with everything neither of us could unsay. She turned away, ran a hand through her hair, pacing like she needed to escape her own skin. I waited. Let her struggle. Let her taste the shame. Finally, she turned back, arms crossed, chin tilted, defiant. "Okay. Yes. I met someone. It wasn't planned. It just happened. I needed to feel alive again. You've been so distant lately. Always working. Always tired. I needed something." My stomach turned. Not because she cheated, I had already made peace with that part. But because she justified it. Because in her mind, this was my fault. I drove her to it. I didn't give her enough attention, so naturally she spread her legs for someone else. I laughed. A dark, bitter sound that didn't feel like it came from me. "You needed something? You needed someone? So you let some Instagram clown fuck the life back into you?" Her eyes welled up with tears. "That's not fair." "No," I said, stepping back. "What's not fair is that I was here. Waiting. Loving you. Planning a weekend getaway to surprise you. I thought we were struggling, sure, but I thought we were trying. I didn't realize you'd already found your escape route wrapped in abs and cheap cologne." She sobbed. Loud, messy, mascara-streaked sobs that filled the space between us. But it was too late. Her tears didn't reach me. Couldn't. I had nothing left to offer her, no comfort, no anger, not even hatred. Just the numb, irreversible knowledge that the woman I loved wasn't who I thought she was. The rest of that day passed in silence, broken only by the occasional sniffle from her side of the apartment and the dull hum of the air conditioner. I didn't leave. I didn't yell. I didn't even ask her to go. I just sat there on the couch, staring into the void, listening to the clock tick louder than it ever had before. Every second felt like a nail in the coffin of our marriage, the marriage I thought was flawed, sure, but still salvageable. But now? Now I knew the foundation was soaked in lies. She tried to talk. Several times. I could see her pacing the hallway, hovering near the edge of the living room, wringing her hands like she was rehearsing a script in her head. But she didn't have the courage. Or maybe she knew no words would fix what she broke. Eventually, she retreated to the bedroom, our bedroom, and closed the door. That night, I slept on the couch. I didn't cry. I didn't move. I just lay there with my eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling, hearing her muffled sobs from behind the door she used to leave open just for me. At one point, around 3 a.m., I heard it creak open. I pretended to be asleep. She stood there for a long moment, the light from the hallway casting her shadow across the floor. I didn't move. I couldn't. If I looked at her, if I acknowledged her, I would shatter. She went back inside and didn't come out until morning. When the sun rose, it didn't feel like a new day. It felt like another layer of dust settling on something already dead. I sat at the kitchen table, nursing a cup of black coffee while she tiptoed around like a stranger in her own home. I didn't say a word. Just watched her. Observed every movement like I was watching the final scene of a movie I never wanted to end this way. Eventually, she broke the silence. I think we need to talk. I looked up slowly. Her face was pale, drawn. Eyes red. Hair messy. She looked like the aftermath of her own choices. I nodded once. Okay, I said. Talk. She sat across from me, hands trembling around a chipped ceramic mug she never liked. She didn't look me in the eye. I didn't mean for it to happen, she began, voice low. When we first got to Miami, I was just happy to be away. The girls and I were catching up, drinking, dancing. I felt free. Then I met him. It was casual at first. Just flirting. But he was charming. Confident. He made me feel wanted. I interrupted. My voice was calm. Dead. That's the word you're looking for, right? She flinched but nodded. Yeah. I guess. He made me feel like I was still desirable. Like I wasn't just a wife or a roommate or an afterthought. I stared at her, trying to find the woman I married in that explanation. The woman who used to leave me notes in my lunchbox, who danced with me in the kitchen, who cried when I proposed. She knew, I whispered. She must have died sometime last year, and you just never told me. Megan looked up then, tears welling again. I never stopped loving you, I swear. Love doesn't do what you did, I said, standing. My chair scraped back slowly, the sound slicing through the silence. Love has bad days. Love fights. Love struggles. But it doesn't seek validation in someone else's bed. She didn't follow me when I left the kitchen. She didn't try to stop me when I walked out the front door. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I couldn't breathe in that apartment anymore. Not with the ghost of what we used to be haunting every corner. I drove aimlessly for hours, letting the city blur past me like watercolors left out in the rain. No destination, no music, just the steady hum of the engine and the occasional honk of someone impatient with my slow drifting down familiar roads. My hands gripped the steering wheel tighter than necessary, knuckles pale, jaw locked, mind spiraling through every moment that now felt like a lie. Our anniversaries, her laugh during those late-night movie marathons, the way she used to reach for my hand while crossing the street, all of it tainted now. All of it poisoned by the image of her wrapped around a man who didn't even know her middle name. I ended up at the old marina, a quiet stretch by the water where we used to go when we first started dating. It wasn't anything special, just a few benches, some old boats, a food truck that served greasy fish tacos, but it was ours. Or it had been. I parked the car and sat on the hood, staring out at the water, wondering when exactly everything had started to crack. Maybe it had been slow, like ice forming on a windshield. Maybe I had been too busy, too tired, too trusting. But she had jumped. And I had stayed. That was the difference. I don't know how long I sat there. Long enough for the sun to slide across the sky, long enough for my phone to buzz 3 times, her name flashing each time like a wound reopening. I didn't answer. I couldn't. I didn't want to hear another apology, another excuse, another twisted version of the truth designed to make me feel guilty for her betrayal. Eventually, I drove home. Not because I wanted to, but because I needed to know what came next. When I walked in, the apartment smelled like lavender, the scent of the candles she always lit when she was nervous or trying to cover something up. She was sitting on the couch, hair still messy, face bare, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. She didn't say anything at first. Just looked up at me with those big, tear-wrecked eyes that used to melt me. I packed a bag, she said softly. I'll go stay with Melissa for a few days. Give you space. I nodded. That was all I could do. There was no dramatic speech, no parting hug, no last-minute attempt at salvaging the unsalvageable. She picked up her duffel, walked past me slowly, and paused at the door. "I still love you," she whispered. I didn't respond. I just stood there, watching the door close behind her, feeling like something final had just happened. Like a chapter had ended, not with a bang, but with a slow, painful whisper. And then there was silence. The kind of silence that settles deep in your bones. The kind that doesn't go away with time or distraction. The kind that forces you to sit with your grief until you finally understand it's not just about losing someone, it's about losing the version of yourself that believed in them. I wandered through the apartment after she left, touching the things she used to care about. The pillow she always fluffed before bed. The stupid ceramic cat she insisted on keeping in the hallway. The framed photo of us from our honeymoon, all sunburn and smiles and promises we didn't know we'd break. I didn't cry. I just sat on the edge of the bed and whispered to no one, "Why wasn't I enough?" And the silence answered back. The days that followed bled into one another, each one quieter and heavier than the last. I worked from home, barely speaking to anyone beyond the bare minimum. My coworkers probably assumed I was sick or just overloaded, and I let them believe that. It was easier than telling the truth that I was unraveling. That every time I tried to focus, my mind wandered back to that rooftop in Miami. To the dress. To her smile. To him. It felt like she was still everywhere. Her scent lingered in the sheets. Her coffee mug was still in the sink. Her bobby pins littered the bathroom counter like tiny landmines of memory. I deleted Jordan's profile from my phone, but not before downloading every post with her in it. I hated myself for it, but I needed the proof not of her infidelity but of my own clarity. I never wanted to doubt again. I never wanted to gaslight myself into thinking I was overreacting. The photos were a monument to the moment my marriage died. And in some twisted way, they helped me begin to bury it. Megan texted a few times. Short messages. Not asking to come back, not begging for forgiveness, just checking in. Thinking of you. Hope you're eating. Please take care of yourself. It made me sick. She had taken everything, my trust, my peace, my future, and now she wanted to play the role of the concerned ex-wife as if kindness could erase betrayal. I didn't reply. Not because I hated her, but because I didn't want to keep feeding the ghost of what we were. Every time I saw her name on my screen, it was like ripping the stitches out of a healing wound. One night, about a week after she left, I ran into Melissa, her friend, the one she claimed to be staying with. It was accidental. A grocery store aisle, both of us reaching for the same bottle of wine. She looked surprised. Nervous. Said my name like she wasn't sure if I'd punch her or collapse. "She's not with me, you know," she blurted before I even asked. I stared at her, heart thudding. "What?" "Megan," she said, dropping her gaze. "She's not staying at my place. I haven't seen her since she got back from Miami." The world tilted. I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. I nodded slowly, jaw tightening. "Thanks." She looked like she wanted to say more, but I walked away. I drove home with that bottle of wine unopened in the passenger seat, my hands shaking on the wheel. She had lied again. Even after being caught, even after watching our marriage disintegrate, she was still spinning new stories. Still protecting her secrets. Back in the apartment, I sat in the dark with that bottle, listening to the silence and wondering where she really was. With him? Alone in some hotel, waiting for me to come crawling back? At another man's apartment, already weaving her charm around someone new? I didn't know. And maybe that was the point. Maybe Megan wasn't just lost, maybe she wanted to be. And maybe I needed to stop searching for her in the places she left behind. The realization that she had lied about even something as simple as where she was staying shattered any final thread of hope I had been unknowingly clinging to. It wasn't just the cheating. It was the pattern. The instinct to deceive. The way she wore dishonesty like a second skin, so fluid and comfortable that even in the aftermath she couldn't speak the truth. That night, I didn't drink the wine. I poured it down the sink. I didn't want to drown anymore. I wanted to feel this. The ache. The loss. The truth. Because feeling it meant I was still alive. Numbness was just a slow death in disguise. The next morning I started packing her things. Not out of rage. Not as a punishment. But as an act of closure. Every drawer I emptied, every shirt I folded, every shoe I placed in the box, it felt like reclaiming a part of myself that had been buried under her presence. I took down the framed photos, even the ones I still loved. Especially those. I couldn't afford sentiment anymore. Not when sentiment was the knife she'd twisted in my back. By midday, the apartment looked different. Not empty, but lighter. Like I had exorcised something toxic. Like the air could move again. I stacked the boxes near the door, texted her a single sentence, "Your things are packed. Come get them or I'll have them sent." And then turned my phone off. I didn't want to see her reaction. I didn't care for her excuses. This wasn't about revenge. This was about survival. That night, I sat alone on the couch with a takeout box and an old movie playing in the background, the kind we used to watch together on rainy Sundays. I didn't cry. I didn't break. I just sat. And for the first time in weeks, my chest didn't feel like it was being crushed under the weight of what-ifs. The next day, she came. She didn't knock right away. I saw her through the peephole, standing there, looking uncertain, her arms folded around herself like she could somehow protect herself from what she'd done. I opened the door without a word. She looked up, startled by how cold my face must have been. "You packed everything?" she asked quietly. I nodded. "It's all there." She hesitated, then stepped inside, I scanning the apartment like it was foreign now. And maybe it was. She no longer belonged here. Not in the air. Not in the walls. Not in me. She moved slowly, picking up the boxes one by one. She didn't cry. Didn't beg. Maybe she knew there was nothing left to save. I didn't help her. I just watched, arms crossed, heart still. When she finished, she turned to me, lips parting like she might try to say something meaningful. But all that came out was a whisper. I never wanted it to end like this. I stared at her, the silence between us more honest than any words she had ever spoken. "It didn't have to," I said. "But you made sure it did." And then, just like that, she was gone. I closed the door behind her, locked it, and leaned my forehead against the wood. For a moment, I just stood there, breathing. Not crying. Not shaking. Just breathing. And that somehow felt like the beginning of something new. The days that followed her final departure weren't filled with dramatic healing or some sudden burst of freedom. No, they were quiet. Achingly so. Grief doesn't arrive with fanfare, it moves like fog, slow and steady, seeping into every crevice of your life. I found myself pausing mid-task, staring at empty doorways as if she might suddenly walk back in, not as the woman who betrayed me, but as the version of her I still remembered. The version I had loved. But that version was gone, and every time I remembered that, the ache returned, dull, familiar, and hollow. I started waking up earlier, not out of motivation, but because sleep became fragile. I would lie in bed, staring at the ceiling long after the sun rose, trying to piece together the moments that led us here. I kept thinking there had to have been a moment I missed, a warning sign, a shift in tone, a second glance, something that could have prepared me. But nothing ever came to mind. If there had been signs, I hadn't seen them. Or maybe I chose not to. It's strange how betrayal rearranges everything. Even your memories. I think back to our last anniversary dinner, how beautiful she looked in that green dress, how she smiled when the waiter brought the champagne, and now I questioned all of it. Was she already gone then? Was that smile meant for someone else? Had she already decided she was done with me even as I reached for her hand across the table? I started journaling, not because I believed it would help, but because the silence in the apartment had grown too loud. I needed somewhere to pour the words, the anger, the questions. I wrote everything, how I hated her, how I missed her, how I blamed myself and then didn't, over and over again in a cruel loop. And somewhere in those pages I started to see myself again. Not just the man she left, but the man I was before her. The one with ambition, passion, purpose. He'd been buried under years of compromise, of trying to be enough for someone who kept shifting the goalposts. One night, I went for a drive. No destination, just motion. I ended up at the same marina, but this time I didn't sit on the hood of the car. I walked the docks. I listened to the water lapping gently against the sides of the boats. I stood at the edge and closed my eyes, breathing in the salt and the wind and something that felt like peace, raw and imperfect, but real. That's when I realized something. I had been trying to mourn a future that was never going to happen. The life I thought we were building together had only existed in my mind. She had left long before Miami. Maybe not physically, but emotionally. She drifted, slowly, quietly, until the only thing left was her body next to mine and her heart somewhere else. That's the hardest part, isn't it? Not losing what you had, but realizing you never really had it to begin with. A few weeks passed. The weather began to shift, the early signs of autumn creeping into the air with its cooler nights and golden sunsets. The apartment didn't feel haunted anymore. Just quiet. Just mine. I rearranged the furniture. I replaced the photos on the wall. I even painted the bedroom a different color, not because I hated the old one, but because I needed something that hadn't been chosen with her in mind. Small acts of reclamation, little victories that added up to something larger, my life on my terms. One afternoon I got a letter in the mail. No return address, but the handwriting was unmistakable. Her handwriting. Megan's. I stared at the envelope for a long time before opening it, heart pounding against my ribs like it was trying to escape. Part of me didn't want to read it. What was left to say? What words could possibly matter now? But curiosity is a cruel thing, and grief is even crueler. So I opened it. It wasn't long. A single page written in blue ink. Her handwriting was rushed, uneven, like she had written it in a storm of emotion. She apologized, of course. Said she didn't expect forgiveness, but she needed to explain. Said she hadn't stayed with Jordan. That it had been a moment, a stupid, selfish moment that spiraled into something neither of them had truly wanted. She said she realized too late that she had been running not from me, but from herself. And then at the end, she wrote this. You loved me in ways I didn't deserve and I betrayed that. I don't know who I am without you, but I understand now that you need to find out who you are without me. I folded the letter neatly, placed it back in the envelope, and slid it into a drawer I rarely opened. I didn't cry. I didn't text her. I didn't reach out to say I understood. Because I didn't. Not really. Love, real love, doesn't just vanish. It doesn't seek escape in the arms of someone else. It doesn't dismantle the life you built without a word. Maybe she was lost. Maybe she was broken. But so was I, and I had chosen to fight for us while she had chosen to run. And now finally I was choosing to let go. That weekend I took a solo trip. Just a few hours upstate to a cabin near the woods. No distractions. No cell service. Just me, a journal, and the kind of quiet that doesn't suffocate, the kind that heals. I hiked. I cooked for myself. I read books I had forgotten I owned. And for the first time in a long time I didn't think about her every minute. I thought about myself. My future. My freedom. Healing isn't linear. It's messy and slow and often brutal. There are days when I still wake up reaching for her out of habit. Nights when I roll over expecting to hear her breathing softly beside me. But those moments are becoming rarer. Fainter. Like echoes fading into the past. Because this is what healing looks like, not forgetting, but remembering without breaking. Learning to carry the weight without letting it bury you. Finding yourself in the rubble and realizing you were worth saving all along. It's strange, the things you end up being grateful for. I never thought I'd say that about her betrayal. Never thought I'd look at what she did, the lies, the cheating, the cold selfishness of it all, and feel something other than rage or despair. But now, standing on the other side of it, I see it for what it was, a brutal, necessary awakening. A forced unraveling of a life I had outgrown but was too afraid to leave. Her infidelity shattered the illusion. And once the pieces fell, I could finally see what I'd been blind to for so long, not just who she was, but who I had become in the process of loving someone who didn't truly love me back. I lost myself in that marriage. Slowly. Quietly. In the name of compromise, in the name of peace, in the name of being the good husband. I stopped asking for what I needed. Stopped standing my ground. I let things slide, small things at first, then bigger things. I rationalized, forgave, made excuses until the man in the mirror barely resembled the one who used to dream big and love hard and laugh without caution. I became small in order to make room for her. And she still left. But now I'm rebuilding. Piece by piece. On my own terms. I started seeing a therapist. Something I'd always shrugged off before, convinced I could sort it all out myself. But talking helped. More than I expected. It gave me language for things I had buried. It made me realize how much of my worth I had tied to being someone's partner, someone's provider, someone's emotional anchor, never pausing to ask what I needed in return. I've reconnected with old friends. The kind I stopped seeing because Megan didn't like them or thought they were a bad influence. They welcomed me back without judgment. As if they'd been waiting for me to wake up. We've had beers and late-night talks and those rare, beautiful moments of laughter that come straight from the chest, unfiltered and honest. I've also started writing again. Not just the journaling, but actual stories. Essays. Thoughts I didn't even know I had until they spilled out onto the page. And people are reading them. Relating to them. Telling me they see themselves in my pain. There's something powerful about that, turning wounds into words. Making meaning out of what once felt senseless. And no, I'm not dating yet. I'm not rushing to fill the void she left behind. Because it's not a void anymore. It's a space I'm learning to occupy on my own. I'm rediscovering what it means to enjoy my own company. To sit with silence and not feel lonely. To make plans just for me. To be enough for myself. She reached out again recently. Just a short message. Said she heard about my writing. Said she was proud of me. I didn't respond. Not out of spite, but because there's nothing left to say. Our chapter is closed. The book isn't. But that part of the story? It's done. So here's what I know now. Love doesn't mean losing yourself. Trust isn't something you beg for, it's something you build together. And betrayal, while painful, can also be the greatest gift life gives you. Not because of the pain, but because of what you become once you survive it. I'm not who I was before her. I'm better. Because I walked through hell and came out holding my own heart. And I'm never letting it go again.